Murray, it's great to talk to you and to meet you online. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's a lovely project that you're doing.
I've got two books sitting on my desk
Hmm.
that I promise are not here just for the occasion. Okay,
Very
I'm
good.
they've been on my desk for some time. In fact, last night I was teaching a homiletics course,
Okay.
and strongly recommending Your Heart Is the Matter because I think it's the best book on application that I've come across. Really,
Hmm.
really helpful, brother. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, that's lovely.
Uh,
Thank you for that
Particularly
encouragement.
your three ifs. The indicative, imperative,
Oh, yes.
subjunctive.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
really, really helpful insight,
Hmm.
and just a fresh way of doing things from my point of view. So, yeah, Lord bless you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. So,
Oh, that's lovely to hear.
yeah. And some
Yeah.
weeks ago, I was speaking to your friend Phil Campbell
Oh,
uh,
okay. Yeah, very good.
about Eutychus, so that was good as well. So,
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's a great little book, isn't it?
it is. It's really good, and it's just.
Yes.
I mean, I read a lot of books on preaching, but every now and then you get one that's just fresh. It
Yes.
just comes from a different angle, and
Yeah. And Saving
yeah,
Eutychus is like that, isn't it? It's
it really is. It really
yeah, it's
is.
sort of
Yeah,
and
but
simple, clear.
it's deceptive in the sense that it's light in one sense, but it's
Mm.
full of
Yeah.
profound truths, and that's what I love about
Yes.
it. So yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, are you writing at the moment? Do you have time for much writing in the midst of your?
Well, no, I tend to only get into a good writing project when I have study leave.
Okay,
And so study leave is coming up in 2027.
okay.
So that's when I next hope to, work on something. I've got
So
a
do
couple
you
of ideas.
you have a
Uh,
project? You have a couple of ideas in your head, do you?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah, there's one thing I'm interested in writing on. Might with some of these questions, I might even tap into the idea in this interview a little bit at the end. I'm drawn to the idea. I think it's actually a really simple idea, but quite useful. That there are um, three main parts to ministry, pastoral ministry. A minister is a preacher, a pastor, and a leader.
mm-hmm.
And I like to think of those as points of a triangle,
Mm-hmm.
and what matters are the sides of the triangle. It's the
Okay,
relationship between being a preacher and a pastor, and the
yes,
relationship between being a preacher and a leader, and the relationship between being a pastor and a leader. And
okay.
those sides go in both directions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think, the way I reflect on that is that I was trained very much to be a preacher and a pastor.
Yes.
And leadership just wasn't really on the radar.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you.
And now I think a lot of young guys are keen as beans to be leaders,
Hmm.
but they're not necessarily very pastoral. And
Hmm.
um,
That's a great insight.
uh,
Yeah, yeah,
so, yeah, I
yeah.
think there's various ways you can work the three sides of the triangle,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I think that's what I want to develop.
Yeah,
Is
fascinating. Yeah, yeah.
so helping
I,
preachers preach pastorally and preachers leaders,
hmm. Yeah,
and helping leaders lead as pastors, and so on. Yeah.
yeah. No, great. That'd be really helpful. The other big subject I do at the moment is pastoral theology, so we're looking at those sort of different issues as well. And I think leadership, you're
Yeah.
right. It's a neglected one.
Yeah, I'd love to know just a little more about what you're currently doing, John. Like I read your biography, and you've done all sorts of wonderful things over the years. But
Yeah,
what's
I've
your
been
current?
privileged to. I've been privileged to be involved in quite a number of different ministries.
Yes.
I'm just in the process at the moment of handing over the leadership of Edinburgh Bible College, which I set
Okay.
up 13 years ago,
That's
and
wonderful.
I'll still be involved, but at my age, I need to hand on the reins for somebody else and support them.
Mm,
So
mm,
that at the moment is the bulk of my work, but I preach regularly in churches.
mm.
I mentor a number of guys. I sort of also work. I sort of describe as a sort of consultancy role with churches,
Yeah, I love it.
getting alongside the leaders and helping them form a strategy or
Mm,
something in the local church. So I've still
mm.
got a number of plates spinning, as it
Yeah.
were. all of which are very fulfilling, and I'm reluctant to sort of let any of them drop.
Yeah,
Um,
yes.
but as you get
Yeah.
older, you don't have much choice sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's
the
great.
vision is still there, the passion is still there, but not always the energy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, true. That
So,
can
but
diminish a
yeah,
little.
I'm very privileged. Yeah, I'm very privileged. But the college, I mean, everything we do, we were already before COVID, we were experimenting with sort of hybrid teaching, online
Mm.
and in person.
Okay,
At the
yes.
moment, everything we do is online, and
Okay.
it's worked well. It's worked well for us, and it
Mm.
one of the well, two of the advantages are it broadens our constituency of students. So we now have
Yeah.
students not only from UK but from South Sudan, America, Poland.
Yeah, that's
Um,
amazing, isn't
and
it? Yeah,
it
it's
really
wonderful.
and also bringing in teachers. You know,
Mm.
you don't have to have somebody who
Yeah,
lives
okay.
half an hour down the road.
Yeah, true. Yes. That's
So
very good.
yeah, we're very encouraged. And this year we've had 18 new students join us
Yeah,
um,
lovely.
for different courses. So yeah, we're very encouraged. So
That's really wonderful. Yes.
yeah, it's a great privilege. So, but you know what it's like. It's that privilege of investing in
Yeah.
another generation of workers and seeing them flourish and almost outstrip you at times and get on with it. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
so
Which is a lovely thing to see, really, isn't it?
it really is.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a great joy. It's a great joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Murray, tell us a little about yourself and your ministry there in Australia.
Yeah, so I lecture full-time at RTC, Reformed Theological College. We're in Melbourne. And smallish college, we'd have about 60, 70 students, and again, teach in a range of modes. So we have on campus, but also distance and online, intensives. So yeah, quite a range of modes. Mostly focused on equipping people for gospel work. That might be ordained ministry, or some other area of gospel work. And plenty of there are students who are studying for other reasons, but that's the heart and soul of what we're
Yeah, yeah.
doing and wanting people to be just well, thoroughly grounded in Reformed theology,
Hmm.
um, passionate about the gospel, well equipped to handle God's word well. Uh,
Amen.
yeah, that's sort of the heart of who we are and what we're doing.
And have
So
you
I
been doing
teach
that for? Sorry.
practical theology there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Have you been doing
yeah,
that for a number of years now, Murray?
yeah. I have. I started part time in 2001 when I was still pastor of a church, and then full time in 2006, and then I became principal from 2008 through to 2019. So I had 12 years as principal and then stepped down at that point. Um, really wanting more space and time for ministry and less
Hmm.
administration,
Hmm.
um, less management and more
Yes.
ministry.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the last few years I've continued as a lecturer and then sort of, yeah, have a wider ministry of
Sure.
speaking and training where I can.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. How did you first sense a call of God on your life into ministry?
For me, it was, I don't know exactly what age I was, but late teens, around late teens, I think. Um, a few things came together then, but prior to that, I grew up in a strong Christian home. My parents were very committed to the Lord and committed to Christian work. And so Dad had often said, just when I was growing up, never discount the possibility that the Lord might want you to serve in ministry. And he just sowed that seed from time to time. So I guess that seed was there. Um, come late teens, three things kind of merged for me, came together. And I think the Lord used these three things together to start placing ministry really on my heart. Um, one thing was that I finally, as a terribly late developer, I finally got interested in reading. Um, I wasn't at all academic at school, and yeah, wasn't much into reading. But when I did get into reading, I tended to read good stuff.
Hmm.
And early on, I got into Martin Lloyd-Jones.
Hmm.
And Lloyd-Jones, I think, both his book preaching and preachers and listening to lots of his sermons on old cassette tapes, that started to spark in my heart just a real love of preaching and a deep
Mm.
conviction about how powerful and how significant it was. And then around a similar time, the church I grew up in split over the charismatic movement, which was not uncommon at the time,
Hmm.
1980s. Um,
Yeah.
Charismatic movement sweeping through many mainline churches. I was in New Zealand. I was born and bred in New Zealand. Went to an evangelical, probably slightly Arminian church, but it was a Bible believing, Bible preaching church. But the turmoil in that church over the charismatic movement was enormous, and the church basically split, and I was part of that fallout. And so I embarked on a year of church hopping and shopping, and tried pretty well everything on the young
Yes.
church market at the time. And I actually found it deeply discouraging.
Hmm.
I really struggled to find another church that I wanted to be a part of. And the discouragement was quite specific. It seemed to me you could find a church that was strong on preaching and lousy in terms of missional focus, or
Hmm.
wonderful on outreach and evangelism, but weak in reverent worship and or maybe lovely warm fellowship, but the teaching was terrible. And it was like, why do I have to pick and choose?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
uh, and so I think the Lord really used that to lay on my heart a deep love of the church, a real heart and desire to see healthy churches, holistically healthy churches.
Mm.
Over a church, where there's rich theology and wonderful expository preaching, and it's warm and it's outward looking, and the worship is uplifting, and
Hmm.
surely that must be positive. It's
Yes.
contemporary but grounded. That started to become something I longed for, and I didn't find it. I
Hmm.
made a church choice that was head over heart.
Hmm.
Um, but in God's kindness, He was using that, I think, to develop this heart for ministry. And the
Hmm.
third thing that happened around the same time was I started at university and got involved with the Christian Union
Hmm. Hmm.
on campus, and that was just a wonderful experience. Opportunity to be engaged in evangelism and in some leadership stuff, mixing with other Christians from a range of churches, and I loved it. So I think the Lord used those three things together
Mm.
to yeah, start to lay this nagging feeling on my heart that maybe he wanted me to think about ministry, and I didn't
Hmm.
want to. Um, there were a couple of reasons I didn't want to. One was I had a very nice life plan sorted out anyway, um, that I really didn't want disrupted. And the other was that my two older brothers had already by that point decided to train for ministry,
Okay.
and it felt kind of lame to be the third boy saying, "Oh yeah, me too." And so I was really, really resisting just being another one in
Yeah.
the family.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, the Lord wouldn't let that settle, and just increasingly a real strong sense of internal call,
Hmm.
uh, desire, aspiration,
Hmm.
passion.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think too at that time, very little external
Hmm.
testing.
Right.
One of the things I think's really changed since then, this is 1980s in New Zealand. Um, since then, I think we've done a whole lot better in terms of ministry traineeships and apprenticeships, internships,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
really being able to solidly test gifts and
Hmm.
calling before
Hmm.
embarking on theological study. I think
Yeah.
I lacked that,
Hmm.
but the Lord was kind, and yeah, he led me on to do theological study, and
Right.
uh, yeah,
Brilliant.
it was
Your comment about your brothers is interesting. My dad was a pastor, and when I was
mm,
about 17, I began to sense this call of God on my life. So I went to talk to him, and he said, "That's interesting." He said, "2 weeks ago, your twin brother came and had the same conversation with me." And
really
I knew nothing about that.
It
And
was remarkable.
it sort of stuck me back because I thought maybe I'm just doing this because I'm used to living in a manse and breathing that air,
Mm,
and it made me
mm,
really have to go back and question: was this real? Was it? It was. There's no
yeah,
question about that. But it
yes.
was an interesting experience. It really was. Yeah.
It's really remarkable, especially with a twin brother.
Yes, that's
Oh,
right. That's right. So he
yes.
ended up in ministry as well.
Yeah,
Though
lovely.
theologically, he and I are on different planets. Uh,
Okay. Yes.
we're not particularly close in all sorts of ways. But yeah,
Yeah.
but my dad gave me the old Spurgeonic advice. You know, go away and try and forget about it, and
Right.
come
Yes.
back and talk to
Yes.
me if you can't do anything else. And that's what I did. So
Yes. And
yeah.
you couldn't.
I
Yeah.
couldn't exactly right. That's right. In fact, he told me 6 months. I lasted 3 months, and I had to go back and talk to him about it.
That's
I
so
couldn't
good.
put it off any longer. So yeah, I've often
Lovely
said
to
I
have
did.
a father you could talk to about it too, isn't
That's right. That's right.
it?
It was really helpful. And my comment was I don't really feel called. I feel constrained. You know, it was like
Mm,
I've got backed into a corner. I can't do anything else. I just got to get on with this.
yes.
You know?
Yes.
So
Yes. Wonderful.
yeah. Who were the influences in your life that shaped you into being a preacher as you are today?
Yes. Uh, I mentioned just before Martin Lloyd Jones.
Hmm.
Um, and that was not a first-hand experience. But
Yes.
my parents, mum and dad, had been at Westminster Chapel in London under his
Okay.
ministry, and they were hugely shaped by him. And uh, I guess they passed on quite a bit of that. But it also meant, like I said, when I when I finally began to read books, I started to read Lloyd Jones. And yeah, I would say he was one of the
Hmm.
early formative influences. I think my theology of preaching, my sense of what preaching is,
Hmm.
um, or what I aspire for it to be, a love of exposition and doctrine coming to life and being experientially applied, all that. I think that foundation was very much formed by Lloyd Jones in
Yes.
these second-hand kind of ways.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Quite a bit later, I did some study at Westminster, California. It's where I did my DMin, and there were kind of two components to that, as there often are. There was coursework, and there was a project thesis. Both were really, really formative. I did this when I was a few years into ministry, and I did it in order to grow, to stay fresh, to keep digging and thinking. And yeah, it was wonderfully fruitful. So in some of the coursework at Westminster in California, um, Joseph Joey Piper,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, he did a number of lectures on theology of preaching. He had quite a strong background in Puritan studies
Hmm.
and Puritan preaching. And what he gave there in terms of a biblical theology of preaching was just magnificent. Ian Duggard, I found extremely valuable as he taught, particularly how to preach Old Testament narrative. Hyle Jones was there
Hmm. Hmm.
one season, and the richness of his sort of pastoral theology and how that permeated his preaching. That season was very, very fruitful and helpful.
Hmm.
Um, and the project that I undertook at that time was to study the preaching of Richard Baxter. So
Hmm.
again, learning from a an old dead guy, but I learned so much from Baxter, and
Fantastic.
that I think that's been a very formative influence for almost everything I've taught and said about preaching since
Is that
then.
right? Okay.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
I wrote a book early on called Preaching with Spiritual Vigor, which
Hmm.
is basically a study of Baxter's preaching.
I don't have that on my desk, but I have it on my bookshelf, and I have read it. I
Yeah,
promise you.
okay. Yeah. So the
Yeah.
stuff that I learned in preparing that has been really formative.
Great. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. That's helpful. Brilliant. It's interesting how often
Yeah.
It's interesting how often
Sorry.
Lloyd Jones crops up when I ask the question.
Yes.
Uh, and in many ways, I learned to preach when I went to Bible college. I had an hour's journey by train every day there and back. and I read through
Mm.
Ephesians and Romans. And my dad wasn't a great preacher. I didn't learn preaching from him, though I must have sat
Okay.
under thousands of his sermons. But I learned the love of it from Lloyd Jones. There's no question about
Yes.
that. And
Yeah, interesting.
yeah,
Just
remarkable,
magnificent, really, the legacy he's had, isn't it? And the number
remarkable.
of
Yeah,
people
yeah.
influenced. Mm.
Murray, what advice would you give your younger self as you look back and
Mm.
knowing what you now know, wish you'd know when you were starting out?
Mm. Yeah. One thing I needed to say to myself was slow down.
Okay,
I
yes.
think there was a real sense in which I was a young man in a rush. And
Mm,
once these convictions about preaching in church grew, I just wanted to get on with it. And um, I tended to do my study too fast.
mhm,
Uh, and I think I would have benefited from just slowing down, digging the well deeper really early on. Maybe that's part of why I went back into the DMin
mhm,
studies a few years later, just feeling the need to read more, think more. Um, so yeah, it's great to be young and passionate and full of conviction and keen to get on with it. But um, I say to students now at our college as well, just the privilege of taking time out
mhm,
to dig deep and
mhm,
prepare well.
mhm.
Yeah, I would have slowed myself down if I could have.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Good advice.
and then
Yeah.
I think I think I'd encourage myself to know that it takes time to find your own voice as a preacher. Uh, I think my first sermon was just a dreadfully uh, bad attempt at channeling Martin Lloyd Jones. It was terrible, really,
Yes,
and it took time to find out. Okay, who am I as a preacher?
yes.
What is my voice? What is my style? Um, and that takes time, and
Mhm,
I
mhm,
don't think you get that in 5 or 10 sermons.
mhm,
Uh, and I had a lot of rewrites early on in my ministry, and that would be rare now.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
but uh, yeah, take time and just invest well into those early years of preaching because you're laying a
mhm,
foundation and
mhm,
disciplines and methods that are really significant.
mhm,
Yeah, I'd say those two things to myself. I think another thing that would have been useful to say to myself then is um, build, don't just write sermons, build a ministry. And I think early on, you're basically just learning how to write a sermon, how to prepare, how to deliver a sermon. But early in ministry, there's another thing to learn,
mhm,
and that is how to actually shape a pastoral ministry
mhm.
where where preaching is central, but it's not everything.
Yes, yes.
Um, where the preaching diet is healthy, where it's not about one-hit wonders and
Mhm,
producing amazing sermons, but producing a diet that will feed and nourish um, and evangelize. Uh, so yeah, thinking more intentionally than I was able to do at the time about what it looks like to build a faithful and healthy preaching ministry
mhm,
rather than just how to write a good sermon.
mhm. Yeah, great
Mm.
advice. Yeah, great advice. Yeah. As you survey the preaching scene, I mean, I'm sure you're more familiar with Australia perhaps than anywhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
But generally speaking, what encourages you and what concerns you? What?
Mm. Yeah, look, there is real encouragement, and it's nice to be able to say that.
Yes.
I think most preaching books that you read start with a page or two about how dire the preaching situation is and that it's never been worse. But there's almost a sense over here in this part of the world down under where it's almost never been better.
Really?
Um, in the sense that there are a large number of churches and ministries that are committed to expository preaching. And, 20 years ago, to be sort of reformed evangelical and expository made you a rare oddity. And now it's kind of normal in a lot of churches,
Right.
which is just wonderful. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd say many of the evangelical theological colleges and Bible colleges over here are training expository preachers. Many churches, I mean, it's obviously not across the board, but
Sure. Yeah.
there, there are plenty of good expository preaching ministries. And it's wonderfully resourced. Like the resources available now for
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
people who are serious about expository preaching, just remarkable.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
in fact, probably too good. Like it's more than you can keep up with. Uh, so yeah, real encouragements in terms of the number of people committed to just sound, faithful Bible preaching.
Mhm.
To me, the concern is almost the flip side of exactly that coin. Certainly, again, in this context, um, the risk is that we're good Bible teachers, but we're not what what the doctor would have called logic on fire,
Mhm, mhm.
um,
Yeah.
and not understanding necessarily that the heart of preaching is um, encountering God
Yes.
Himself
Yes.
in all His glory and love and majesty and beauty. Um, and so I think I'm concerned that there's plenty of preaching which is very sound, very faithful,
Mhm.
very good exegetically, actually. And
Mhm.
in Australia, there's been a lovely, strong tradition of good biblical theology and
Mhm.
Christ-centered preaching. But the risk, I think, is that we think that if a sermon has been faithful and biblically substantial and sound, then
Mhm.
it's a good
Mhm.
sermon. And I'm not
Mhm.
convinced.
No, I'm with you. I agree.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
yeah, so
agree. Yeah.
that's my area of passion and concern.
That's
Um,
my greatest burden about preaching in this part of the world. Certainly,
yeah, okay.
it's exegetically sound and careful,
Yeah.
but lacking fire and passion and heart
Yeah.
engagement. I'm recommending everybody that wants to read Joel Beake's book on Reformed preaching,
Yes.
which I
Yes.
just think is a massively important antidote to the
It
very point
is.
you're making today. Um,
Yeah, it's a tremendous volume, isn't it? He
it really
opens
is.
that up
Yeah.
historically, but also
Yes.
just very practically in terms of what experiential preaching
Yes.
looks
Yeah.
like. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there a distinctive about Australian preaching, if I could put it like that? I'm interested in how cultures affect preaching.
Yeah.
Is there an Australian type of preaching, if you know what I mean?
Well, I think that strength in biblical theology
Hmm.
has actually been a hallmark of Australian ministry. The Sydney diocese, the Anglican diocese in Sydney, has been
Yes.
hugely influential in Australia and far beyond.
Sure. Yeah.
And part of that has been through Moore Theological College, Graham Goldsworthy and others, really robust, good biblical theology. Um, and there have been some excellent evangelists
Hmm.
in Australia.
Hmm.
And I think there is a real concern to preach the gospel. Uh, and there's some good evangelistic preaching and ministry done. And Aussies too, like I'm not actually like I'm now an Aussie, but I'm not born and bred in
Okay.
Aussie. And I probably don't sound exactly like an Aussie, but maybe I do to an English audience, but not or a
Yeah.
British audience, but not here. Aussies are just really plain.
Yes.
They call a spade a shovel. They have this really earthy accent, and there's
Yes.
something very earthy and plain, and
Yes.
therefore I think very real
Yes.
about their preaching. There's no airs and graces,
Yes.
which
Understood.
I think is quite lovely.
Uh-huh.
But I would say you can have those things I've just mentioned. You can have an evangelistic edge. You can have great biblical theology, and it can be as plain and straight shooting as you like. but you can still have that basically as a good lecture on the biblical text
Hmm.
rather than something which um, feels spiritually alive.
Mm. Hmm.
And yeah, that's where my concern is with
Hmm.
with Australian preaching as well as with other
Yeah,
preaching.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think there is a subjective element to preaching, and there is a spiritual dynamic in preaching, um, and there's an experiential dimension to preaching
Hmm.
that I think is very, very precious and hard to teach.
Yes,
It probably
that's the
is more
problem.
caught than taught.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Um, and
Uh,
I'm not sure that it's easily caught over here.
mhm. Yes, yeah. My first encounter with Australian preaching was the Jensen brothers and
Right, yes.
Chapo.
Yeah,
They would come over to London to the Dick Lucas meetings. That's
yes.
where I first heard them. And I remember
Yeah,
being in a
yeah.
meeting when I presume Phil Jensen was preaching. I'm not sure, and he was lambasting the Anglican Church in London. I mean, just tearing strips off them left, right, and centre. And two-thirds of the congregation were Anglicans.
Yeah.
And they were sitting there and the sharp intakes of breath. And I remember the man sitting just along from me in the row in front, literally with his head in his hands. He's going too far. He's going too. It's just
Yeah,
Aussie bluntness. I mean, he was right.
yeah,
I mean, he was absolutely
yeah.
on the nail. But for the sort of the very London English preciousness, it was just a
Yes.
bit too much. Dick Lucas was
In your
sat there with a
face.
smile from ear to ear. He was enjoying it, but it was
That's a classic.
it was
And
great.
people like Philip Jensen and Chapo, John
Yeah.
Chapman, they're just superb examples of where Australian ministry has been at its best because
Yes.
you have all those things we're talking about.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
it's biblically very, very strong and great biblical theology and Christocentric
Mm.
and evangelistic and gospel-hearted and
Yeah.
straight shooting and plain
It's great.
and it
Yeah.
goes to the heart.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
but I think there are plenty of people who have loved those men and
Hmm.
benefited from them, but not been able to imitate
Yes.
what they did. And of
Understood.
course not. Like they're unique. They've been
Themselves. That's right. Yeah.
wonderful gifts of God.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it would be good to
Yeah.
capture
Hmm.
more of that experiential side.
Are the Jensen brothers still active? They must be fairly elderly now, but are they still
Well, they
active?
are. They are
Yeah.
elderly, but they are still active and
Okay. Good.
they
Great.
still speak here and there and have input into different situations and just with remarkable wisdom and insight
Yes.
and
Yeah.
but I think there is a dynamic here in Australia of working out what the next phase is
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
post
Okay.
Jensen
Yes.
era because they've
Yes.
been very, very influential. And
Sure.
actually, just talking about the Australian scene, there's something of a similar dynamic here in Melbourne. I don't know if you're aware of the ministry of Peter Adam.
A little bit. I
But,
know of. Yeah.
yes, he's been very active in England as well.
Hmm.
But he's had a wonderful ministry here and
Yes.
hugely influential in Melbourne and far beyond. And he's getting older, but still very, very active, writing, preaching, mentoring lots of men in
Hmm.
ministry.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he would be one of those who makes the cut as, being highly formative for myself as well. Just
Hmm.
been a lovely, godly, faithful man. But again, I think, as these excellent leaders get older, um, we're kind of looking around and thinking, well, who
Hmm.
is the next
Yes.
person like that?
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
not sure that there is one.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
But I think it shows for me, certainly the importance of mentoring, intentionally investing yourself without replicating yourself
yeah,
in younger men and just seeking to encourage them to pick up the baton and run with it more, even better than you've done. And I think as you get old, I said as I get older, that's where my heart lies. Less what I'm doing, but more what they can do. Uh,
yes, that's lovely, isn't it? And what I find is um, there are plenty of younger men who are just so eager for that.
Mm,
They
yeah.
want it, and
Yes.
they're very teachable,
Yeah. They are. Yeah.
and hungry. It's just lovely to see.
That's right.
So
That's
yeah, I
right.
think that's what I lacked early on in my ministry.
hmm
There wasn't really strong mentoring relationships.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, thankfully that's changed, and that they're tremendously significant.
Yeah. I mean, I've had one or two guys actually asking me to mentor them. As you said, that there's a teachability that I don't think I was aware of
Yes,
when I was growing up.
yes,
Um, and people are seeking out older guys who
yes.
will
They really are.
hold their hand and keep them going. It's great. It's very encouraging.
Yes, yes, I see the same. In fact, I have more guys ask me for that
Yeah,
than I can manage.
that's
And
right.
there's this lovely dynamic that is not infrequent that when someone finishes at college, they say, "Well, look, I know you're busy, but
Yes.
could we catch up every so
Yes.
often?"
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's a real desire on their part
Yeah.
to keep
Yeah.
learning, keep growing, which is wonderful.
Yeah. That's a wonderful aspect of the ministry we're involved in. It's that long-term involvement. I sort of put together a network towards the end of last year, which I call the Brotherhood, which sounds a little bit Masonic, but it concerns people. But it's basically guys who are in ministry now that I had some hand in their training and their equipping.
Yeah,
And there's about
uh,
30 of us now. We have a WhatsApp group. We send prayer requests round, and it's one of the most enriching things I've experienced in the last year or two. And just
that's
hearing what
lovely.
they're doing, and
Yeah.
sometimes they pick my brains. I sometimes pick their brains.
Mhm.
It's just such a delightful development that I hadn't
Yes.
anticipated.
Isn't that
It's
a
wonderful.
lovely
It's
thing?
great.
Yeah. Be so
Murray,
helpful. I think,
sorry, go.
yeah.
In
Well,
your
I
own
think
ministry.
isolation in ministry is
Oh,
disastrous
it's a real thing. I
and
agree. I agree. Yeah,
common.
it's very
So,
common.
and I think these younger men realize that and don't want it.
Yes. Yep.
I think the culprits are people more like my age and the decade
Yes.
above and below me.
Yeah.
They're more likely to be isolated in ministry, and it's
I
very
agree.
unhealthy.
I agree with you. Yeah. In your own preaching ministry, what aspect of preaching, all the way through from study, preparation, delivery, is there one aspect that you find the most demanding, stretching, and has it always been the same, or has it changed as the years have gone by?
Mm. Um, well, there's some things I have always struggled with and maybe always will, and some of the struggles change,
hmm
I think. One thing that I just always have to work on is to be uh, thoroughly prayerful in my preaching ministry. Um, I'm not delighted to say that that's a long-term struggle, but that's the reality. I can be very task-oriented.
hmm
Um, I love studying the Bible. I love writing a sermon. It's easy to just get into that. Um, and so I continue to have to slow myself down again and be less task-oriented
hmm
and remind myself that, yeah, only God can give me a message to preach, and only He can open hearts, and only He can use me. So yeah, that's something that I continue to work at and want to work at because I think it's just unbelievably important,
hmm
but actually terribly easily
hmm
minimized.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, Related to that, again, something I passionately believe in, but I always have to consciously work at, and that is to genuinely uh, preach the message to my own heart first. Um, I think because I've taught preaching now for over 20 years, um, that's given me a really clear and solid sense of methodology and what I do and why I do it and how I do it. And I think teaching preaching has really helped my own preaching a lot.
hmm
But the risk is that you become proficient
hmm
in that, and uh, and also that for me, the risk that you're just constantly giving out, constantly teaching and preaching
Mm.
in other contexts, and your output could be greater than your capacity to put it through your own heart. And so,
Understood.
again, that's something I just want to always work at.
Hmm.
Um, just one other thing, I think preachers are sort of wired. We're all wired differently, and we lean into and out of things more easily. Um, I I have to actually lean into doing the detailed study.
Mm.
I love big picture. I love I actually maybe it's a bit rare, but I love working on application and I love shaping and crafting a message and thinking about how to communicate it well.
Mm.
Uh, but I'm not naturally a detailed person, so I just have to force myself, always have, to read the more technical commentaries, to do the language work, um, to do the more pedantic work, if you like,
Hmm. Hmm.
before I rush into
Yes.
into the bigger picture stuff.
Great.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's another thing where yeah, I still find
Yeah.
it hard.
No, thanks, Murray. That's helpful. And it strikes my heart. I appreciate that. That's great.
Mm.
I'm sure you've been in this situation many times, but what one piece of advice would you give to a young guy who comes and says, I just begin to sense that God may be calling me to be a preacher? How would you guide him from that moment onwards?
Mm. Well, I want to encourage him, of course, and um, I think I want to give him or want to see him have opportunities to start testing and
Mm.
developing those gifts. Like I said before, I don't think there used to be particularly good models for doing that, but I think it's so helpful and so important not just to run with someone's sort of internal call, but to bless them with external
Hmm.
assessment
Yes.
and training and encouragement. And I think the more preacher training we can do pre-theological college, the better.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
Give them opportunities, test and see, does this person have the capacity to open scripture clearly and to communicate well. Um, so growing and testing his gifts, encouraging him to take the time to do that and to listen. And then, I'd be encouraging him if it's in the context of a period of testing and training, develop all those things that you're going to need for a lifetime of ministry. So, um, working on godly character and prayer life, working on healthy relationships with people, and becoming pastorally hearted in your relationship toward others. Loving the church, um, loving the Bible. if you if you if you don't love the Bible, then you're in trouble.
That's
Uh,
right.
so yeah, I'd be encouraging a young guy like that
Yeah.
to invest time just in growing and developing those passions, those gifts, and
Hmm.
getting lots of input and
Hmm.
assessment and help and training
Hmm.
before saying, I'm definitely called of God.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I strongly believe in the internal and the external call,
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
and the two going hand in hand.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's very,
Mm.
very helpful. Thank you. Brilliant. Murray, it's been a delight to talk to you. Thank you so much for giving me some of your evening there in Melbourne to talk.
Yes, yes. The light has faded as we've talked, and I should have put the light on in the room. The sun
That's
was still
fine.
shining when we began, but it's now
Okay.
night. Yeah, but it's lovely talking with you,
That's
John.
great. No, brilliant. And continue to keep that pen going when you can and write some more good books, my brother. They're much
Yeah,
appreciated, I assure you. But what
it's lovely.
I
Thank
must,
you.
just a thought as we were talking, I just recently doing the thing I've been really focused on in my own ministry for the last year probably has been the whole issue of church structures and leadership roles, which
Mm.
is one of the reasons I picked up your book. and I just started doing a podcast on church leadership roles.
Oh, great. Yeah,
Sort
good.
of, it's a way to sort of helps me format my research and teaching. But what I
Yeah.
might do if I get back to some point, not immediately, I'd love to have you on that podcast one and talk to you about some of these issues, about
Yes.
the importance of eldership. And I think that the focus I love in your book particularly is about there's a lot of stuff out there about the biblical teaching on elders and the roles. But one of the strong
Yeah.
things in your book is how you develop a team culture
Yeah.
working together, and I think that's
Yes.
that's so important and neglected in
Yeah. Yeah, I
um,
think it's really essential. I would be very happy to chat with you
yeah,
about that on the podcast. I think, yeah, I was often in eldership contexts that were good, but I think it was, every man was basically assumed to be wired the same way, do the same
yes,
thing, and the
yes,
main focus was on what they did individually in terms
yes,
of pastoral contexts.
yes, yes,
And that's important, but yeah, it's
yeah,
by no means the whole story.
no, no, no,
And
no, that's right,
the whole thing of the elders having to lead a church and lead a
yes,
church together,
together,
I think
yes,
those are two
yeah,
huge concepts.
a very important point, yeah, yeah. Thank you. I'll
Yeah.
I'll, I'll certainly get back to you about that. Yeah, thank you again, my brother. Lord bless you.
Yeah, thank you, John. I love what you're doing, and thanks for the time tonight.
Likewise. Okay,
Okay,
God,
God bless you.
God be with you. Thanks.
Bye bye.